Okay. Okay, let's start from Daf Chavav Amid Aleph. So we're beginning on the top of the page, and there we just reference to the Mishnah between Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva said that a shvuas bitoy, a shvuah of expression, is something that could be made in the past and in the future. Hi, Alan. We just began. So we learned in the Mishnah that Rabbi Akiva says that a Shavuos Bitoy is in the past and in the future. You could say, I swear I'm going to eat, or Lahara Lahativ, past and future, and you could go, I ate, or I will eat. Rabbi Shmuel says, no, it's only like it's written in the Chumash, like the Torah tells you, where the Torah says, Ki shishava levat lahara oy lahativ. It has to be something that you're going to do, and not something in the past. So Tanu Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, lahara or lahativ. The pasuk says that the shvuah has to be something to be doing bad or to doing good. I only understand things that are clearly bad and clearly good, like you're going to eat or not going to eat. Let's say a shvuah that has nothing to do with bad or good. It's nothing. It's inconsequential. For example, you say you're going to throw a rock into a lake. So how do I know that that's also included into the drasha? That's in part of Shavuos Bitoy. Talmud Loima, the pasuk says, "Oy nefesh kisishava levate susayim." A man takes a oath clearly with his lips, right? So that's what levate b'svasayim. So that's marba, any type of oath, even if it's not necessarily good or bad. Ainli ela haba. I only see it's in the future. L'sha'ava menayin. How do you know that a shvuah in the past is also included in shvuah's bitoy? Talmud loima. The pasuk says l'choil asher yivate ha'adam b'shvuah. The pasuk continues and says anything that a person expresses in a shvuah, that is considered shvuah's bitoy. So we learn two things. Number one, that it doesn't necessarily have to be a shvuah that's good or bad. It could be a parva shvuah, like I'm going to throw a rock into the sea. And it also includes something that's in the past tense as well. So says Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Shmuel says, lahara lehitiv. It says to do bad, to do good. Lahaba. It's only a shvuah in the future. Nothing, a shvuah in the past is not part of this shvuah's bita. It doesn't get a carbon oil of yared. Amalei Rabbi Akiva. So Rabbi Akiva says in Cain, if you're going to say so, I only see things that are good or bad. Something that's not bad, not good. How do you know that? Would you agree, Rabbi Yishmael, that that's included in Shavuos Bitoy? Amalei. So Rabbi Yishmael says yes. Meribu hakoseb. The pasuk has an amplification. It amplifies to include other types of shvuas that's in the parsha Shavuos Bitoy, which means even type of shvuah that's not good or bad. Amaloi, so Rabbi Akiva said, well, im riba hakasa lekach, if the pasuk amplifies for the something that's not good or bad, riba hakasa lekach, then the pasuk will amplify also and includes things that are in the past tense. So that was the end of the discussion between Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva, where it seems like Rabbi Akiva had the last word. So the Gemara asks, "Shapi komele Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Shmuel." Rabbi Akiva says it very good to Rabbi Shmuel that if you're going with the riboy hakosiv, if you're going with an amplification of the pasuk and the pasuk amplifies to include shvuas, that's not really so like the example that the Chumash gives. So then it should include shvuas that are in the past as well. Rabbi Yochanan explained, Rabbi Shmuel, Shashimis as Rabbi Nechunya ben Hakona. Rabbi Shmuel's rabbi was Rabbi Nechunya ben Hakona. Shoyadarish as Kol Torah Kula, he would darshan the whole Torah bichlal uprat. So whenever the Torah gives a generalization and uprat is a restriction, and then another generalization, so then it's very limited how you're going to include other types of items into the subject. So we're going to see that how that plays out with Shvua. Nami darsh b'chlal prad. So Rabbi Shmuel also darshan with a generalization and a restriction. Rabbi Kiva, on the other hand, Sheshimis is Nachamish Kamzu. His rabbi was Nachamish Kamzu. Shahaya darsh kol Torah kula b'ribo emid. He darshan the whole Torah as an amplification and just a minute restriction. So then Iunami Darish Riba he also darshans that you amplify as much as you can and you just minimize the restriction. So how does this play out? In other words, Rabbi Kiva is more inclusive and Rabbi Shmuel is less inclusive because he darshans klal prat, which is a generalization and in detail. Ein bechlal smash beprat. You could only include into the generalization only limited to that something that's similar to the detail. So let us explain. Mind Rabbi Kiva the darsh ribu mir ribu. The Tanya we learned to the Brayso. Oiz nefesh kisisava. The soul that swears, riboy, that's an amplification. Hara lehetiv miet, that's a restriction. L'chol asher yivate ha'odam, chazav ribo, you have another amplification. So riba, umiet, uribo, you have an amplification, a restriction, and an amplification. So we darshan riba hakol. You amplify, include everything into the shvuah. My riba, what do you mean that? What do we mean? Ribi kol mili. We marba any type of shvuah. My miet, what's the limited? What's not involved in Shavuos Bitoy, miyat devar mitzvah. Any type of mitzvah, you swear I'm going to do a mitzvah, I'm going to put on tefillin or something like that, that's not involved with Shavuos Bitoy. Right. So therefore it includes past, it includes Shavuos that you're going to throw, let's say, a rock into the river. Rabbi Shmuel, the Darsh Klal Prat, he darshans Klal Prat. Oy neshef shkisisava levatas raim is Klal. It's a generalization. Lahara leheite Prat. That's a detail. Anything that a person expresses, that's another generalization. So the Torah, in describing Shavuos Bitoy, says klal, a generalization, or prat, a detail, or klal, and another generalization. So if you're going to include other details, it has to be similar to the detail that the Torah gives. Just like the detail the Torah gives is future. So also all other types of shvuos, including shvuos bita, have to be in the future tense. So ahani klola, so la suya filudvam she'ein bahem arav atava lahaba. It includes things that are not good or bad, but it's in the future, like throwing a rock into the sea. Ahani prata, but the detail is lemute afiludvam she'esh ben arav atava, even things that could be good or bad, but it's l'sha'ava. A past tense shvua is not included into shvuas bitoy. So you have to marba something and you mamayit something. So you marba things that are not hara v'atava, and you mamayit, you exclude shvuas in the past. So the Gemara asks, why don't you do the reverse? Why don't you include shvuas that are in the past and exclude the shvuas that are not hara v'hatava, that are not good or bad, like the shvuah of throwing the rock into the river? Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, dumya der lahara lehetiv. The hara lehetiv is a future. Misha yisura mishum bal yachal devarik. There, the isser of making a shvuah in the future, the issue would be, don't profane your words. You have to keep your commitments. Yatzuzu, but a shvuah in the past, a violation of that shvuah is not because you're profaning your words, because it was done already. Ela bal teshakra, don't say a lie. In other words, when you take a shvuah in the past and it's not true, it's not you're profaning your words, you're lying. So therefore, that's not similar to the examples that the Chumash gives. So therefore, we exclude, according to Rabbi Shmuel, a shvuah in the past. Rabbi Yitzchak bar Oven Amar, Rabbi Yitzchak bar Oven says, I have another reason why you exclude a shvuah in the past. Because Amal Kra, the pasuk says, Oy nefesh, or a person, Kishu Shavah, when he will swear, Levate b'svasayim, to clarify with his lips. In other words, Misha Shvuah, he first swears, Kaidemes Labiti, before the clarification. You first swear, and then you clarify by doing the action. You swear you're going to eat, and Bitoy means you eat. You follow through with an action. But a Shvuah l'sha'avar, a Shvuah in the past, is V'loy Shabitu Kaidemes l'Shvuah. The expression, the action precedes the Shvuah. Yatzazeh, so we'll exclude achalti v'lo yachalti. I ate or I didn't eat. Examples of shvuah in the past. Shamaisa koydem l'shvuah, that the action precedes the shvuah. According to Rabbi Shmuel, they're not included into the parsha shvuah's bitui. Tana Rabbanim, rabbis taught ha'adam b'shvuah. The Torah tells you that you have to be a human being in the shvuah. Let's read the pasuk. Ashiyevate ha'adam b'shvuah. You can see that. A human being has to express the shvuah. What does the Torah tell you? Prat la'onus, to exclude a victim of circumstances beyond his control. V'ne'elam, and it is hidden from him. Prat lemezid, if he violates the shvuah by mezid, you don't bring a carbon. Mimenu, from him, he forgot the shvuah. He forgot the shvuah. Let's say he forgot the item that the shvuah was about. Talmud Bavli Daf Yomi, he has to forget the shvuah. Al helm shvuah hu chayev, on forgetting about the shvuah, you're liable. But forgetting the item that was the subject of the shvuah, that if you violate that, you're not going to have to bring a carbon. The Gemara is not going to explain every part of this brisa. Amamar ha'adam b'shvuah. What does it mean that you have to be in full with your full faculties when you make the shvuah? Prat la'oidems. If you're a victim beyond your control, then that's not a shvuah. Hey Chidami, what's an example of that? Rav Khan and Rav Asi. Rav Khan and Rav Asi were students of Rav. When they were in front of Rav, one of them said, Shvuas, I swear the Hachi Amarav, that the rabbi said this. Umar Ama, and the other one said, Shvuas the Hachi Amarav, I swear Rav said that. Then he also Lakamid Rav, when Rav entered the room, he said like one of them. Now each one said a Shvuah that Rav said like he said. So the other one would say, did I swear falsely? Amalei, he says, no, you don't have to bring a carbon if the Beis Hamikdash was around, because that you were an oinus. Libach ansach, your heart forced you into taking a shvuah. You were so convinced you were right. That's not a adam b'shvuah. So now the Gemara says v'ne'elam imenu. V'ne'elam imenu shis alma men shvuah yachol shis alma men chayfetz tamalim b'shvuah ne'elam imenu al helm shvuah chayv ein chayv al helm chayfetz. That you have to remember the shvuah, to forget about the shvuah, then you're liable. But if you forget about the item of the shvuah, then that's not part of shvuah's bitui. That's a little difficult to understand. Machakol Marava in the West, they laughed at this part of the brisa, and they felt that this part of the brisa makes no sense. I could forget the shvuah without forgetting the item, the subject of the shvuah. Man says, I swear I'm not going to eat wheat bread. Uksavar, and he thought he meant she'oichel kamar. He's going to eat wheat bread. So the shvuah inshe, he forgot the exact wording of a shvuah, which is in the negative, not to eat. But he remembered the subject of the shvuah, which was paschita. So that's understandable. Ella, what's the opposite? How is it possible to remember the item but not remember the shvuah? What are you going to say? You're going to Omar, you're going to say shvuah shloichel paschita. You swear that you're not going to eat paschitim, right? So how are you going to forget the subject? You're going to think that you said, I swear I'm not going to eat barley bread. Well, the shvuah you remembered the shvuah because you remembered, I swear I'm not going to eat, but you forgot the subject, what you're not going to eat. But that's not good enough, because kevin the chefza inshe, since you forgot the item, so that's hainu helam shvuah. That's like forgetting the shvuah itself. So it's one of the same. It's a mistake in the brisa. That means that if you forget the shvuah, it's possible to remember the item. But the other way around, if you forget the item, you automatically forgot the shvuah. So it's one of the same. Maskef lo Rav Yosef. So Rav Yosef asked the question, Alma chayfetz b'lo shvuah lo mishkachas lo. You're trying to tell me forgetting the item without forgetting the shvuah, it's impossible. Rav Yosef says, I think it's possible. He says, I swear I'm not going to eat wheat bread. And he stuck his hand into a basket. Lito pasoired. His intention was to take barley bread, but he knows he's not supposed to eat wheat bread. Also, and in the bag he took out a wheat bread. Ukusava, so he thought what he took out was a barley bread. So he remembered the shvuah, but he forgot the item. V'achla, the shvuah dichalei. He remembered the shvuah, but he doesn't know if this item is the sa'orim or the chitim. So isn't that remembering the shvuah and forgetting the chayfetz? And says the Gemara, Malaya, that's still not good. The only reason why you mechayiv him a carbon is because of what he's holding in his hand. What he's holding in his hand, helam shvuah, he's forgetting that he has a shvuah on this item. So it's all interrelated, and we don't garish lishnachrina. So Rabbi Yosef Amalach, Rabbi Yosef, who asked this question, says, Kivan the chitin, if you would tell him it's wheat, who parshmene, he would, drop it. He just thinks that it's soirim, but really it's chitin. So helm chayfetzu. That's as if he it's hidden from him the item. So that's what the brisa means. So it's a machlekes what the brisa means. Now, Boyamene Rava Rav Nachman. Rava asked a question from Rav Nachman. Helem zev if he forgot the chayfetz and he forgot the shvuah. So let's say he doesn't remember the subject of the shvuah and he doesn't remember the shvuah at all. Mahu, what's the din? That's Rava's question for Rav Nachman. Do you bring a carbon? Amalei. So Rav Nachman answers, Harei helet shvuah biyadei b'chayiv. He forgot the shvuah, so therefore, if he violated it, he's liable for a carbon. So the Rava asks, Adarabah, let's say the opposite. Harei chayfetz biyadei. He forgot the subject of the shvuah, and you told me only if he forgets the shvuah, but if he forgets the chayfetz also, maybe he's pater. Amar Ravashi said, Chazinin, let us see. We'll remind him. If we would remind him about the shvuah, he would stop what he was doing. So then the point is he forgot. It's the shvuah was the problem that he forgot. If you remind him of the item and he would drop it, so then we see that the item was the more important and he would be pater. That makes no sense. The fact is, when he stops because you tell him he has a shvuah, it's because he's holding the item. If you remind him that this item, he automatically remembers that he had a shvuah attached to it. That makes no difference. According to this, it doesn't make a difference. In this case, if you forget both, for example, a person said, I'm not going to eat wheat bread. And he thinks that he made a shvuah that I'm going to eat barley bread. So he forgot the shvuah and he forgot the subject. And then he eats a wheat bread. So then since he forgot the item and forgot the subject, in this case, he'd probably be potter from a carbon oil of yerin. New Gemara. Boyamene Rava from Rav Nachman. We go to the second page. The Brisa says, how is it possible to have a shvuas biti in the avar? And this is a very good question. We just said that you have to be completely insane when you make a shvuah. But a guy who's convinced he's right and making a shvuah, and turns out he was wrong, so we say that his heart forced him to make the shvuah. Like the two students in front of Rav. Each one said, Rav said this way. And he said, Rav said this way. And Rav agreed with one of them. So the other one asked, but I took a shvuah, that am I liable? And Rav said, no, because your heart forced you into making a shvuah. So the question is, then every time you take a shvuah bita in the past tense, you swear you ate. You really believe that you ate, so you're an oinus. So the question is, how is it possible to have shvuas bita in the past? If he knew he's swearing falsely, so mezet. So for sure he's not going to bring a carbon because he wants to make a false shvuah on purpose. If he thought he really ate a loaf of bread, and that's why he's swearing, I swear I ate a loaf of bread, and then he turns out he was wrong. Honestly, it's not his fault. His heart, he was convinced he was right when he made the shvuah. Amalei. So Rav Nachman, I think this is Rav Nachman answered Rava. You're right. It's a great question. Amalei, a man said, I know this shvu is asur. He says, I know this shvu is asur, but I don't know if you get a carbon or not. So really, he's mazed. He knows he wants to swear falsely, but he doesn't believe that the Torah will require him either a malchus or a carbon. And Kaman, who's this according to? Kamunbaz, like this opinion of Munbaz. Damashigis carbon. If you don't know that this violation could bring a carbon, Shema Shagaga, that's called a mistake, and you'll bring a carbon. So really, it's a funny thing. He wants to swear falsely that he ate. He's not convinced that he ate. He knows he didn't eat. But he's swearing I ate, right? But he doesn't know that if you violate that shvuah, that shvuah will bring a malchus. He thinks, he's not sure. So since he doesn't know if it's a malchus or a carbon, so therefore that's a mistake, and therefore he would bring a carbon. This is the opinion of Mumbas. But that's a very limited opinion. So the Gemara says, Afila Tamer Rabbanim. Even according to Rabbanim, that's not a problem. Ad kan like plague Rabbanim minmers al b'chol Torah kul lav chidushu. Aval hacha the chidushu, the b'chol Torah kul achkan lav the maisi carbon. That means that we never find in Kol HaTorah Kula that a lav without a chorus, the lav that doesn't have chorus, if you do it on purpose, bringing a carbon. For example, if you eat trephus, right? So there's no chorus for eating trephus. So if you do it by mistake, you're not going to bring a carbon, right? Only if there's a violation of chorus, then you bring a carbon. Here, the Torah is mechadish by Shavua that although if you do it on purpose, you're only going to get a malchus, by mistake, you have to bring this carbon oil of yard. So since this whole since it's a chiddush, so then since it's a chiddush, even the Rabbanim would agree that shigigas carbon shma shgaga, like Mumbaz. Even though in Hol HaTorah Kula they would disagree with Mumbaz, here in the Kol HaTorah Kula they would agree with Mumbaz. So again, what the Gemara is saying is, how is it possible Shavuos biti l'sha'avar? You actually know it's mazid. You're swearing falsely on purpose, but you don't know you get that if you do that you get a malchus. You don't know. You don't know if you're a chayiv and carbon or not. So therefore, that's a mistake, and you would bring a carbon. Let's see, new Gemara. Ravina Merava. Ravina asked a question for Rava. Nishba akiko mistakin ela. Let's say a guy swears that he's not going to eat this piece of a loaf of bread, and now he's in danger. He needs to eat it. Maho. What's the thing? Can he eat it? So the Gemara says, mistakin lishri lamar. Of course he's allowed to eat. Pekuach nefesh. Of course he's allowed to eat if he's in danger. The question is that he's very starving, and even if he would not forget about the shvuah, he would have eaten it anyway. Let's say he remembered the shvuah, he would have eaten it anyway. But l'maisa, when he ate it, he forgot about the shvuah. Is he chayiv a carbon? Amalei. In other words, he would have eaten it on purpose, but at the end of the day, he ate it by mistake. Amalei Tanina, Shav Miyadosai, maybe carbon al Shigagase. Loy Shav Miyadosai, ain maybe carbon al Shigagase. If a guy would have done it on purpose, then if he would have done it on purpose anyway, then you don't bring a carbon. The only time you bring a carbon is if you would have been mazed. You have to be honest with yourself that if you would have known that you have a shvuah, you wouldn't have done it. So because you did it by mistake, the Torah says you bring a carbon. But if you're in the mindset that had I known about the shvuah, I would have done it anyway, I would have violated my shvuah, then even if I did it by mistake, I would not bring a carbon. New Gemara, and it's well finished. Amar Shmuel says, Gama beliba shetzarach sheyaytze b'svasav. If a person committed in his heart that he's going to make a shvuah, right? He has to express it with his lips. A shvuah in his heart doesn't mean anything. Shnema, because the pasuk says, Livate b'svasayim. You have to express it clearly with your lips. So, Meisvei, so you tell me you can't make a shvuah in your heart? The Gemara says, the Brisa says, Bisvasayim, you make it with your lips, v'loy beleif, not in your heart. Gama b'liboy b'nayin, but how do you know you can make it with your heart? Any way you express a shvuah, even in your heart, it's considered a shvuah. So ends the brisa. So the Gemara first wants to understand the brisa is an inherent contradiction. Hagufa kasha. There's an inherent question on this brisa. Amrit, the brisa starts off, says, B'svasayim v'lay b'leiv. That the brisa first says that shvu is only in with your lips and not in the heart. Then the brisa says, Gama b'liba menayin, that how do you know it can be in the heart as well? So Amar Rav Sheshes Rav Seisa says, Holay kasha, the brisa is not difficult. Hachikama, b'svasayim v'loy shegama b'liba l'haitzis v'l'haitzi. With your lips, and not somebody who committed in his heart to express with his lips and didn't do it. So if a guy in his mind says, I'm going to make a shvuah with my mouth, as long as he didn't say it with his mouth, there is no shvuah. But let's say he says, I want to make a shvuah in my heart. I don't want to express it with my mouth. How do you know that's a shvuah? Anything, the way is expressed, even if it's in your heart, that's still called a shvuah. So this is a question. El Shmuel Kasha. The way Rav Sheshes explained the brisa seems to imply that a person, if he really means it, could take a shvuah just with his heart without expressing with his lips. Rav Sheshes tritzvei mahachi. You have to say this is the brisa. The brisa is a mistake. Bisvasayim v'loy shegama v'libay l'hoitzi pas chitim v'hoitzi pas orim. You have to say with your lips. That means not that you commit in your heart to say wheat bread and you said pas orin barley bread. If you mistakenly worded it, then there is no shvuah. Now the brisa says gama b'li l'hoitzi pas chitim v'hoitzi pas stam anayim. But let's say you said I'm going to say wheat bread, and then you just said bread, but you said bread, but you didn't say wheat bread. That's what the brisa is saying. As long as you express the word bread, you have a shvuah. But if you just committed in your heart to make a shvuah and didn't express it at all, there is no shvuah. Finally, one more minute. The last kasha of the Gemara. The Torah tells you by a carbon, whatever comes out of your mouth, you have to keep. Only if you express with your mouth to bring a carbon. Let's say if you commit in your heart to bring a carbon, how do you know you have to do that? Talmud Bavli. Any donation in the heart, you have to keep. So we see that a person could be required to follow through a commitment that he makes in his heart. So Shmuel says, by a shvuah, it doesn't work that way. What's the difference? And it says the Gemara, Shani Hasan Niksiv Kol Nediv Lei. By a carbon, it says, with your heart, just with your heart enough, it's good enough to make a commitment. You don't need to verbalize it. Says the Gemara of Enigma Menah, why don't I learn a shvuah, a regular shvuah, from a carbon? That just like carbon could be done, a commitment can be committed in the heart alone. So a regular shvuah can be committed in the heart alone. Answers the Gemara, because this is strictly written by Truma, and the Torah repeats the same idea by Kachim. So therefore, the Torah was strict about it. Only by Truma and Kachim you could make a commitment in the heart, but not by anything else. So the Gemara says, some people have an opinion that unless the Torah writes the same idea 3 times, because the Torah wrote it by twice, it could teach it in other areas. So just because the Torah wrote it by Truma and Kachim, it could apply by Chulin as well. So why don't we say we learn by regular shvuah from Truma and Kachim? And says the Gemara, have a Chulin v'Kachim. Chulin and Kachim. In other words, a shvuah cannot be done in the heart because the only time the Torah says a commitment in the heart is only by when it comes to a carbon or truma. But to say by a regular shvuah, plain shvuah, which has no sanctification involved, you cannot learn that idea of commitment in the heart from kachim. And therefore, a shvuah, Shmuel stands where he is, that a shvuah in the heart is non-binding. Okay, we will stop over here. Okay.